Welcome to our webinar, Mastering Hybrid Work Management with AI, Unifying Teams, Tools, and Processes. If you enjoy this topic, please explore our YouTube channel for more videos and follow us on LinkedIn to be in the know for event announcements and speaking engagements. Presenting today's discussion is OnePlan's Jim Patterson.
This topic today is a fairly prevalent one and one we address every day with our customers and prospective customers. In the fact that there is hybrid work management going on in organizations driven by a number of different factors. And how do we get a handle on it? How do we harness it? How do we unify the efforts of different teams across tools and different processes? So let's talk about some of those ideas here today. One of the fundamental things that happen is as we go into a rapidly changing and evolving environment out there in the marketplace, we strive to do things quicker and get more agility into what we do. And consequently, agile methodologies and agile approaches continue to grow as a way we manage and execute on work. But certain types of work still are more conducive to more waterfall types of approaches and structuring. And some efforts have different portions of their life cycles that maybe part of it, lends itself to more agile, some of it more to more waterfall capabilities. And there are standards out there, there are methodologies out there with different approaches, and not everybody does them in a purist kind of fashion. So some personalized cherry-picked versions of these are out there and combinations thereof. Now layer onto that the fact that, with the easy accessibility of tools out in the cloud, a lot of organizations have a myriad or proliferation of tools that people are using across different functional areas for different purposes or different capabilities across the organization. And in this particular case, what we see is a depiction that came to us from a client that talked about across the different functional areas across the top and down the different capability areas down the left-hand side. Here was just an example of maybe even just a partial slice of what the tools are being used across the organization to make these things happen. So we have different methodologies, we have different tool sets, and so it gets very fragmented in the way that we do business. Now, this breeds inefficiency. First off, it creates data silos, and so what does that breed as far as increased cost and inefficiency? Well, there's poor alignment and collaboration between the participating functional areas because they're being treated separately in whatever tools that they're doing, or they're treating themselves separately. Hence, there's really no single source of truth and lack of overall visibility across the entire portfolio of work that's going on across the enterprise. Now, to get that visibility, it generally requires manual mashups of data from all these multiple tools and extracts and exports and all that type of thing to make that happen. And then to turn it into a form and format that's consumable and meaningful for decision support, it requires manual report and dashboard creation. On top of that, if there's multiple tools and people are supporting different projects and efforts that are going across all these different tools, many times they're duplicating efforts and putting data entry in the different tools, maybe the same information in different tools, depending on what the landscape is in your organization. So we have disconnected information and it's difficult to remain accurate and current across the board, across all of it, let alone chasing team members down for timely completion status and updates across all of these different places that they might have to put it. And one of the biggest pains in organizations is resource capacity planning. And oftentimes, because of this siloed, fragmented approach, people are doing resource capacity planning separately off to the side in things like spreadsheets, et cetera, and it may be disconnected from the portfolio and the project execution in and of itself. So these are just a subset of the things that organizations are facing. But portfolio management across all this is evolving. We've gone from the more traditional waterfall only type of project portfolio management that we've experienced across for decades, and more traditional governance processes that we have across that. But as organizations catch the agile wave, many have tried to go into full agile transformation, and with the objective that maybe we should do everything in an agile fashion. And even if we get to that achievement or to that goal on that far left side that you see here, that can take years to make that transformation. But ultimately, the analysts are even saying now that most organizations are going to find themselves somewhere in the middle, either transitional in here in this adaptive or hybrid state on their way to full agile transformation, or the realization that they're going to end up perpetually in an adaptive or hybrid state moving forward. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is how do we accommodate all variations of this across any organization. Now, the key would be to let teams execute how they need to. What's the best way for them to execute for the type of work and the things that they're trying to deliver, but have leadership get the visibility it needs. So whether or not you have different methodologies like different iterative or waterfall or some combination thereof, and the tools that might be being used in this proliferation of tools, some may be using Azure DevOps on an agile side, Microsoft Project or Smartsheet on more waterfall, some Jira maybe potentially in some groups, and OnePlan has tools itself to do both waterfall and agile planning, and it may be a combination of these things, but leadership would like to see these things and data rolled up into the different programs and portfolios, and maybe even aligned with the strategies and objectives and key results that we'll talk about a little later on in the strategic plans. But the key there is to have the teams be able to do what they need, but leadership get the visibility they need for decision support. Now, even if everybody's all agile, there's still a disconnect at times. In most cases, the teams are going about their business, but the metrics and the things that they look at to execute is different what leadership wants in the language of the business, where the teams might be looking at things like burn-ups and burn-downs and velocity charts and cumulative flow diagrams. At the leadership level, they're still interested in things like cost and return and the measurements and variances of how we're doing, when we're going to actually get delivery dates and those types of things. So the key there is we got to be able to have a system that provides the things that are needed for all the different audiences and all the different constituencies. Now, if we get into a hybrid adaptive PPM mode, right, this is more than just a monolithic, single approach to managing a single portfolio. This adaptive PPM solution, the goal here is to provide transparency and insights for better and faster decision making, to be able to have the visibility so that we can make quick adjustments and shifting business priorities and adjust to market changes, and do that quickly because we have the information at our fingertips. And also be able to across the board balance the investments and resources with the demand so that we get the most value and outcome out of what we're looking for. And down below, like we just talked about, support teams that use a variety of tools and execution methods. We want to automate also the consolidation of information so that manual mashup process doesn't exist anymore. And hopefully at the end of the day, provide a single source of truth, but give the different audiences and constituencies what they need. Now you compound upon this, a portfolio may be singular. You may have a variety of portfolios in your organization that you need to manage. So for example, there may be a project portfolio with projects and work within that are project related. There may be different programs like large transformation programs, for example, that might be going on in your organization. If you have a professional services aspect to your business, there may be a professional services portfolio. On the technical side, there may be application portfolios, product portfolios, IT service portfolios, and you may have to potentially accommodate all of these things to get a complete picture of the business, let alone understand where your resources are being allocated and spent. On top of that, we have tiers of portfolio and work management. For example, there's some teams that maybe simply in your organization as part of this mix, maybe only need to do what's called collaborative work management. They need to share tasks and work collaboratively across, an ever continuous flow of work that comes through their organization. Now there's others that may need to just do traditional project portfolio management where they need some portfolios and some governance around that, and then be able to track the execution of those things. And then there's strategic portfolio management, where we layer in that whole idea of strategic alignment and the potential of orchestrating large efforts that go across functions, across the entire enterprise, and be able to manage those effectively to their fruition and to the desired outcomes. What we're going to talk about today here is that OnePlan supports all these tiers and hybrids, with or without other solutions and tools in the mix. Now, the goal here is we need to be able to meet you where you're at, and we need to be able to address the needs of your organization. So for example, you might decide that unified governance and one enterprise portfolio with governance around that is all you need, and everybody will go lockstep and do things the same way. And this might be true within a domain specific portfolio, like an IT portfolio, for example, that maybe doesn't factor in other parts of the business. but it ensures consistent policies and processes and oversight, and maybe even align those things with corporate strategy. But ultimately, the diverse needs we talked about across an organization may require that you have domain-specific areas or portfolios such that these specific areas can accommodate the specific requirements for each domain, whether it be a department, a business unit, a PMO itself. All those different things that we might have in here, we might need specific requirements and different data points that are particular to those particular domains or departments. And we need specific views and workflows that are unique to those team needs. So the idea is having standards, but provide the requisite amount of flexibility down at this level so that organizations can do and work optimally. And then of course, there's the hybrid areas where we may share top level hierarchy with governance and all that around that strategic alignment and still provide the variability and the flexibility that you're looking for in your organization. So ultimately is to enable this enterprise-wide and cross-functional efforts that we talked about, especially now in this age of digital and business transformation that we're going through. People find this an increasingly often faced challenge within their day-to-day. So OnePlan is really designed to really accommodate and bring this and harness this all together by connecting strategy to execution, to be able to have strategic levels and portfolio levels of visibility, but potentially bringing in the execution data, not only from itself in OnePlan, which it has its own tools, but if you are committed to other tool sets at the execution level, like Microsoft Planner, formerly Project for the Web, Microsoft Project on the desktop, Azure DevOps, in a non-Microsoft fashion, things like Jira, Smartsheet, etc. The idea is to be able to bring these things into the mix and harness this thing into that single source of truth for visibility. So OnePlan really is envisioned as a platform for you. The key is to provide robust infrastructure and security. We are delivered via the Microsoft Cloud with all the compliance and security that you would come to expect from that, as well as OnePlan having its own security model such that you can determine who can see and do what within the solution. We also have pre-built solutions. So we have pre-configured templates to get you started very quickly, but you can configure them yourself. Now, we're talking about PPM here today and project and portfolio management and work management, but you could potentially build other solutions in here in a very low code, no code way by just simply configuring OnePlan because of our flexibility with the different plan and work types that we can develop in there that each have their own needs. Now, OnePlan also has a connector platform, so integrations are easy. Its OneConnect platform has pre-built connectors for the most popular tools you have out there on execution level, but we also have partnerships with other areas. For example, Power Automate from Microsoft or Zapier, just to name a few. We also have the ability to do workflows and automation. So we can do workflows and notifications and approvals and all those types of things right within OnePlan, or we can leverage what you're using today in things like Power Automate. We also have dashboards and reporting in OnePlan. We have an OData feed that basically allows any reporting tool that consumes OData to report on this. We provide a robust set of reports in Power BI for you natively because we are delivered on the Microsoft platform, but we have customers doing the same thing in Tableau and others. We also are releasing our own native onboard reportings that don't require any other reporting tool at all. And AI. We talked about in the title about AI. We have our own AI assistant built in and it's available throughout the solution, and we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. So OnePlan, let's get down to the individual capabilities within there. For example, on the strategic side or the upfront strategy and intake side, we have the ability to model your objectives and key results in your strategic execution plan, and your leadership can actually identify it, elaborate on it, and then status it right up here in OnePlan. We also have light enterprise architecture such that if you go full strategic portfolio management and you have to align yourself with different business capabilities and applications or products, etc., you can do that right within OnePlan itself. And intake, ideation, requests. We have our own ideation portal that allows us to have anyone in your organization or anyone you allow in your organization to come in and submit requests so they can be vetted, prioritized, and ultimately and potentially promoted into the projects and initiatives that you choose to work on. That takes us to the planning piece and the portfolio management. The portfolio managers can look and get that single source of truth and visibility across one or more portfolios in traditional more list views, more board views for those more agile oriented for doing things like program increment planning, and roadmap views so we can communicate deliveries and such to other people inside and outside the organization. Resource capacity planning. We have to factor in our ability to and our wherewithal to deliver resources against these initiatives and commit to plans only that we have the resources to do. Same thing holds true with financials and budgets and be able to track those in a detailed fashion. We talked about this rapidly changing environment where we have to adjust all the time. It wouldn't be prudent for us not to have a what if scenario modeling tool so we can evaluate alternatives quickly and choose the one that best fits our priorities, our strategies, and within our constraints of people and resources and dollars. On the execution side, I had mentioned that OnePlan has its own execution tools. It has its own waterfall planner, its own agile planner, and those connectors to the popular work management tools that you see out there, execution or project tools that are out there, let alone tracking the other things you want, like issues and risks and changes, etc. Now, each project has its own resource requirements, and we have to model that, possibly even negotiate with a resource manager and a project manager to determine who we're going to get on those things. But ultimately, that's going to fold into the resource capacity plan we talked about in the planning stage at the portfolio level. And we can't forget about the team members. We talked about that fragmented approach and multiple places to put your data. Well, what if your team members had one place to go called a My Work area, where it didn't matter if the work was planned in Azure DevOps or in Microsoft Project or OnePlan or Smartsheet? What if it came together into a common place where they can status all of it and have that status feedback into those plans? Same thing holds true with time reporting that you might have to do. That's all built right into the solution. And on the analysis side, individual status reports, making that a natural output of the process, have it generated rather than having us create those from the ground up each reporting period. Dashboards at the portfolio, at the program, at the individual project level, even down to the individual work items that we're looking at. And then visualizations about how all these things are interrelated with one another so we understand the full context of what may or may not impact the things that we're working on. Ultimately, why are these things all here? It's so that we get the outcomes and the value that we're looking for as an organization. And that's what this is designed to do, to increase the likelihood of success. Now, Sophia, we're going to talk about her as far as a AI assistant, Sophia's GPT. We'll talk a little bit more about her in detail in a second here. But ultimately, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to do the right work, meaning select the right things to work on that are aligned with the priorities and the strategies of our organization, and then do the work well, do the work right so that we have a successful completion and outcome at the end of the day. Now, these OnePlan integrations I talked about earlier on, let there be no mistake. These are not custom one-off coded integrations that you or we have to maintain individually. This is a productized integration platform that allows us to connect with maybe agile and software development tools, with your financial management systems, your project planning systems, maybe something you're already doing with ideation, maybe your CRM systems that if you're in a professional services automation type of scenario, your IT service management, etc. We have connectors for all these popular tools out there so that we can leverage that data and harness that fragmentation and those silos of data and bring them all together into a common hub. Now, the strategic dimension of this is why OnePlan enables strategic portfolio management. It's increasingly more important for organizations to get make sure that their portfolios and the work that they're doing align with strategy, and those business leaders being able to put those strategies in place. Have our execution leaders, our project portfolio, scrum masters, product owners, no matter what type of work they're doing, be able to align with those strategies, and also factor in the enterprise architecture and business architecture elements that might have an impact on whether or not we can succeed on these types of things. Just to illustrate that a little bit, maybe you have an objective for an organization to a strategy to grow revenue. And to do that, we have to have certain tangible key results that we actually have to achieve in order to make those things happen. Now, to get there, we may have enterprise architecture elements like a business capability that has to be maybe modified, modernized, or optimized in order to succeed in that realm. And there may be technologies or applications that have to be updated in order to support the new way of doing things. And then ultimately, there may be projects and epics and initiatives that need to go along with this to support doing that and are aligned with the key results and the objectives and are associated and dependent on maybe some enterprise or business architecture elements for their success. OnePlan allows you to do all this within the tool and then visualize how these things all interrelate. So, for example, an objective in a strategic plan, we can look downstream and see the key results in the different projects, products, applications, et cetera, that it is affiliated or associated with. And the same thing holds true if we were looking at it from a project-centric view. What's this project supporting in the strategic realm, and what other things is it associated or dependent upon in order to achieve its success? Once again, we'll talk about a little bit more about that in the demonstration. Now, say hello to Sophia GPT. Sophia is our own purpose-built AI assistant that's designed specifically for project and portfolio management and work execution. It is based upon Microsoft's Azure OpenAI, which has enhanced security and compliance compared to what you get on the open internet, say, for example, with ChatGPT. It's also been trained fully on the capabilities of OnePlan and the disciplines that it supports. And then it will actually leverage transactionally, without learning from it, the data that you have in the system so that it can make assessments and give you real-time value and input based upon the data that's in your system. The key here is that to allow us to be more powerful and do things more quickly than we used to do in the past. So Sophia is always on in OnePlan. If you look at the circle in the lower right-hand portion of the screen, Sophia is always available so that whether we're in the portfolio or in the resource plan, the strategic area, in the innovation area, whatever it might be, we can call on Sophia to assist us in a variety of ways to create things, analyze things, etc. And the idea there is that you can ask it any prompt you need, much like you're used to doing, but it's specific for this purpose. Now, what are some of the use cases for AI and strategic management? Well, some of the analysts tell us that augmented data entry. Why start from scratch when we have to update data? Automated information retrieval to analyze and look at and report. Communication automation, create correspondence and status reports and narratives for the people that are interested in where things stand. Resource estimation, help us build resource plans and optimize them. Help identify underperforming investments and where we might need corrective action. Help us with forecast completion and spending. Maybe tell us where we're running over and where we might end up if we don't take corrective action. Just budget and plan optimization related to that. Risk identification for a particular project. Help it identify potential risks that we should be aware of and maybe identify potential mitigation strategies. You know, defect reduction. Scrutinize your project data to pinpoint areas where defects are most likely to occur, and then basically try to get better in avoiding those in this and future projects. And just finding data anomalies, things that don't make sense. So these are just some of the ones that have been identified as areas that we could get into. Now, not only is it about efficiency, but time savings. The Gartner Group put out a paper back in 2024, and they listed some illustrative weekly time savings per project in areas like schedule creation and management. You know, potentially taking that from 3 hours a week per project down to 30 minutes. You know, status reporting, meeting management, productivity evaluation, resource allocation, budget management, risk management. If you just take these for a project manager on the execution side of things, the assertion by Gartner is you could take weekly time of 11.5 hours down to 2 hours and 45 minutes potentially if you fully maximize the capabilities of AI in all these areas. So once again, there is the promise of this, but we're just learning and getting better and trying to figure out the ways to best use AI, and we have to become skilled at using it. Now, sample use cases for Sophia GPT that are already here. I mean, there's a lot of hype about AI, but to be quite honest, it's here. And we have practical uses for Sophia right within OnePlan today that you can actually leverage to help further this mission of combined hybrid work management across the enterprise, whether it be in the areas of strategic planning, portfolio optimization, work management and task management, risk assessment, resource allocation, investment forecasting. And we just came out with a recent release. We're constantly adding to the mix here of the things that Sophia can do and the sophistication with which it does it. So with that, I thought I would just show a little bit of OnePlan to you and show you some things in action. So, we talk about these portfolios and, portfolios of work, and, this is meant to illustrate a concept of multiple portfolios at the enterprise level. So different parts of the business may have different portfolios in which they have, programs, they may have projects and epics and agile efforts and all those types of things based upon what you would describe as your primary portfolio hierarchy. In this case, portfolios, programs, projects, and epics within the programs, and maybe even feature level down within epics is one way that people commonly do this. But this could be structured in the way that best reflects the way that you visualize your business. And the idea is to be able to capture all these things in one particular place. Now, before we go into this in detail, let's just look at the strategic area. Why are we working on those things? What would be the initial thing that spawns off these initiatives and projects? Well, you might establish some objectives and key results in the solution such that you can identify those and look at things like improve IT infrastructure as an objective. And I could maybe drill into that objective and basically define what that objective is, determine the timeline for that objective, possibly prioritize this objective, maybe some financial things around, maybe even a work plan built around it. But the idea is it's associated at this point directly with 3 different key results. And one of those is reduced server downtime by 50%. If I drill into that, it is a measurable, tangible key result that we can track to see if we have tangible progress being made towards this objective. And in this case, we can see, a description. We can see the associated plans being ideas, projects, and even the business and enterprise application architecture elements in here as well that are associated with this. And you can define these forms and the data points you want any way you like. Now, a really cool thing here, not just at the portfolio level or at the macro level, we can use Sophia here in ways to do this. Now, I've got a key result description in here, but let me just illustrate something for a case here. Let's just say I have, the basics in here in the details about what this project is, or what this key result is. And I came in here and let's just say I didn't have anything in that field at all. I can just come in here and say, generate a description for this key result. And Sophia will look at the data that we already have around that, the name of it, any of the characteristics we have around it, and in rich text format, gave me an objective, an approach, expected outcomes, et cetera, that I could then in turn accept and then make that the key description in that field that we want to as we go on through, once again, helping us at a very detailed, granular level within here, right? And then ultimately, I talked about the visualizations. If I go into the reporting area and I say, show me the visualizer, that visualizer is going to say, okay, for this, do I have any predecessors or successors to this key result that I have? But even more importantly, what are the interrelations in this runway? So this key result now has 3 projects and epics that are supporting the achievement of this. We also have some products and some applications and some business capabilities and value streams that are associated here. And I can actually track at any given point in time the progress and the status of any of those things that I'm associated with to see if there's any risk in me being successful in that particular key result. So once again, very cool how this stuff is all interrelated. Now, if I back out again to the my strategy area, you'll find throughout the system here that you can come at that visualizer from any viewpoint. So for example, in that case, I was looking at it in a very key result centric way. If I wanted to come in here and just look at it from this particular objective or strategy, I can take a look at here and see there's no predecessors and successors, but I can see everything that's driving and then it's associated with this particular strategy as well, and be able to drill in and actually look really quickly at why maybe this thing is red that I am dependent on or associated with, and find out what the details are around that at any given point in time. And here I can see basically the schedule health is off track and the overall schedule, the overall status looks like it's red. This may spawn ideas. And in that particular case, it doesn't matter what execution tool you intend to use. Having a central hub for ideation, innovation, request management allows anybody in your organization to come in here and basically create a request and basically create a new idea or a request or whatever you have. And you can determine what you want to do. Some people enable voting for more crowdsourcing, may have formula-driven prioritization scores that they work with, the alignment that appear of things like key results and strategies that you may be aligned with or things that you might want to look at. And then once again, you can determine what data points you capture around here. So for example, in this website redesign, if I open up one of these, I can basically come in here and see that I have business case starting a narrative to start being put in place. I have the categorization and the characterizations of this. I have the financial aspects of what I've been planning here so far, maybe how I prioritize this to drive the prioritization score. And then also any other plans or elements within the system that I may be associated with that I may have to consider as I do this website redesign piece, okay? Now, if I go back out to the idea portfolio here, and I'm here in this alignment view, this is a key place where I could potentially use Sophia. For example, if I use Sophia with this data available to me here, I can say, for example, based on votes, associated key results, priority, and ROI, what 3 ideas should we approve first and why? And in that particular case, it's going to leverage all it knows from its large language model and Azure OpenAI. All we've trained it on OnePlan, and it's going to factor in on a transactional basis, not on a learned basis, the data that we have here on the screen. And here it's basically giving me the top 3 based on the votes, the key results, the priority, and the return on investment that we have on all 3 of these as we come through here. So it's giving me an idea out of the myriad of things that we're looking at, maybe what are the things I should focus on based upon a diverse set of parameters. Now, the other key piece here is why you might want to do this in OnePlan is that at any given point in time, through our workflow capabilities or with somebody with permissions here to be able to reorganize or promote this idea into, say, a project or an epic, for example, to carry that forward in a complete end-to-end life cycle without having to rekey this or redo this from one system to another. So the key is you get that flow from the original idea all the way through potentially making it an executable portfolio item that you'll execute on. Okay. Well, let's go back to the portfolio. And in this portfolio, we basically have that concept of plan types. When we talked about the flexibility of being able to do different things for different departments or different parts of the organization or different portfolios, is the fact that we can define as many different plan types in this hierarchy as we want. So for example, if the needs of a marketing project might have different data points than say an IT project, you can define those discretely and uniquely for those particular types and accommodate those within that. And they could maybe have their own particular portfolio in here. So this basically is that idea. And we have a security model such that you can determine who can see what and who you share a particular portfolio or particular project with so that you have full control over who has access to see and do what within the system. Now, one of the things to look at is that concept of connectors. And in this particular case, if you notice, there's a number of different icons. Some of them you may recognize that are basically saying these tools or these technologies are ones that OnePlan is connected to in support of bringing this stuff together in a common hub. For example, in this data warehouse migration project, I have a Teams icon here that basically tells me that I'm really only tied with Teams for ongoing content and collaboration within Teams on this particular project. But for example, on this particular project, I have basically, I'm connected with Teams for content and collaboration, but I'm also connected with Smartsheet for execution details on this, or it might be Jira, or it might be Microsoft's project for the web, it might be Monday.com, etc. The idea there is that OnePlan does not need any of those other tools, but we can bring those in if you're committed to those in different parts of your organization and not have to disrupt that. And if you're trying to consolidate the use of a number of tools, you can get your portfolio today and fight that battle of maybe relinquishing some of those tools later on while you're already achieving value of a complete portfolio. Now, if I come here, I've got, list views like here where I can determine any number of columns of data that I want, or any column that's available of data that's available within the system can be made into a view column such that you can fashion your own personal or system-wide views for this. This portfolio summary is leveraging the primary plan type hierarchy, but I might come in here and I might say, okay, let me look at a financial summary and say, I want to look at this a more strictly a dollar focus of how we're doing on financials across the portfolio and have something like that. And this one is actually organized not by the primary hierarchy, but now it is grouped and summarized by the individual business units that we have here. Or I might just strip this down entirely and go down and say, let me see the list of all the things that I have access to see, right? And be able to just look at a flat summary. And then I can basically group, filter, or summarize by any of the data elements or metadata I put around these. So for example, if I wanted to look at, oh, let me look at this by category of project. And now I want to say, oh, what's going on with business transformation? What are my compliance projects, et cetera? I can look at those in a variety of different fashions. And the possibilities are endless there. You're really only limited by your imagination. If I come into the board view, this is where we can look at the same portfolio data, but we can structure different board views. You can have as many different board views as you like, both system-wide and personal views, such that if I came in here in this particular view I'm looking at, I've got this board by state, so proposed, active, closed, on hold, maybe things that I have in the backlog that I want to drag in here. This thing is color-coded by the overall status of the project, red, yellow, green. I've also have some limits here or constraints that if I have budgets of how many things I might be able to have in an active state, dollar-wise, for example, in this case, I had a $10 million limit, but I got $15 million worth of things in here that's exceeding that threshold. And this case, I don't have swim lanes, but in this particular case, I might go in here and say, let me do proposed and active projects by OKRs and budgets. This takes the same data and allows me to just look at it in a different way. So I've got the column is the goals, like grow the business or customer satisfaction. And then I've got the lanes as the different portfolios that they're in. And at any given point in time, I can always get the details around that by simply just going and getting a quick edit. If I want to see more that's on the card, I can get all the gory details around that item so I can go and get into that, or even just drill right into that item right from here. Same thing holds true with roadmaps. So once again, roadmaps, these are automatically generated by the data that's already in the system and flexible in the way you might want to look at this. So for example, I'm looking at this by business unit in the swim lanes here, and the coloring is by status. Well, what if I took a look at this and I wanted to see maybe the color coding by financial health and see how we're doing financial? Well, the color coding on that changes, and maybe I wanted to group this by something else. Maybe I would group this again by, say, category or some other factor. And once again, I got a whole different roadmap perspective on this and filter by those same parameters if I like. So once again, flexible portfolio management. If we bring all this stuff together, harness that from the different tools that might be in use in the organization, bring them into a common tool and solution, and then have all these flexible views depending on how you'd like to get there. That's all great. And we can set up different areas over here on this side so that you can have a specific focus that's specific to your, let's just say, perspective or desires of the way you'd like to see the data within your organization. So let me go back to the list view real quick. And in this portfolio summary, what are the elements that are within a plan? Now, I'll open one right now that's not connected to anything, and I'll get to showing the connectors here in a minute. But the idea here is that, you can fashion what we call our details page to have as many sections and fields of data that you need to define what you want to do, including life cycles and basically, workflows, et cetera, that you might want to have around any of those, and approval cycles. For example, let's just say I sent this back to the initiation stage. What you'll notice is when I do that, I only have a certain amount of fields of data. I have 3 sections with data here that's available to me. But as I move the next stage of investigation on this, right, I may then open up a variety of other things that require or data that we might want to have available, including different tools that we might have available, like work plans, financial plans, resource plans. Now, if I go down here, notice that I have other things in here, like what associated plans do I have? What am I related to that's in here? Overall project schedule and financial summary, project efforts, KPIs, project status fields. Those opened up because we have a workflow of stages and gates that are in here that are available to us. And we can even set up approvals within there. We also have the work planning capability here. So as I had mentioned, we have both Agile and waterfall work plans available to us. And in this particular case, let me start with the resource plan here. We can determine at any given point in time what resources we need and allocate those, and we can plan in terms of hours, full-time equivalents, percentages of effort, and we can also toggle across that at any given point in time. We can also plan in both named individuals or generic resource roles or types. And for example, we can actually at any given point in time find candidates in here with the permissions to do so, to say, I need to find a business analyst in this time frame to fill this. And I see maybe 3 or 4 good candidates that can actually fill this role within this particular time frame, and I can replace that generic with that named individual. I could also replace overloaded individuals with other individuals, for example, and work with my resource manager or functional managers in order to get those things done. The active connection, by clicking on the icon, we can do that from within the work plan or out here from the portfolio, and we can see that we have an active connection to Azure DevOps. And in this particular case, if I open the item that's over in Azure DevOps, what we're connected to is in this case, we've mapped this over to a project or epic over in Azure DevOps. And all the items that are coming in here into OnePlan are basically sourced by this epic, and all the items and the child items that are in here that get synchronized over into OnePlan. We can also, through our extensions, access all the OnePlan capabilities right from within Azure DevOps, so that we don't have to leave Azure DevOps to get the benefits of the tools that are in OnePlan. I could go through a number of different other examples on the connectors that we have. For example, we could be connected to, let's just say, a common one that people are using out there today still on a standalone basis is Microsoft Project. We could use Microsoft Project Professional. We can drill into the work plan, right? And well, this is Microsoft Project for the web, excuse me. And in this particular case, we have an active connection to that plan that's in Project for the web. We go to open it, and this Project for the web plan, which is the source of the data that's coming into OnePlan, is right here. So the person that owns this plan and manages this plan would maybe work in Project for the web as they have been, but because we're connected to it, you will see it in OnePlan format reflected right here in OnePlan coming in from that. Now, we have different work types. So for example, you might have a schedule for a waterfall plan, a backlog type for more agile plans. And this is where you could also track your issues and risks and changes and all the different things around that you might want to track all in one place here within OnePlan. If I go over to say, Jira, we have a connection with Jira here and this cybersecurity enhancement. Now, this one, we might be tied to either a schedule or a backlog work type. And if I go here and I look and see where we're at, I'm not connected at the schedule level, but definitely I'm connected in the backlog level. And I come in here and I can see that this backlog is connected to a Jira plan in here with all the elements that are over here in Jira. And it synchronizes on an automated basis. It does not require the end user to do its own synchronization as they go through or remember to synchronize. It's going to grab these things and synchronize the data as periodically as you want it to, all right? And the idea there is you can either wait for what the system's going to do, or if you have a need to do an import or an export on demand, if you have like a reporting need or a visualization need at any given point in time, you can do it on demand, but by no means do you have to. Once again, we're getting Jira data brought into the system, okay? And I guess the other one I was going to show is this IT Project Professional. The same thing holds true where if we're connected to Microsoft Project. Now, Microsoft Project on the desktop is not a cloud-based tool, but we do have an extension and a connector built for Microsoft Project that allows you, much like you did before with, say, Project Server or Project Online, to basically, synchronize the data as you see fit. So here is the source Microsoft Project plan on the desktop client, right, that we may have built. And that extension that is, makes the synchronization possible between OnePlan and Microsoft allows you to publish and receive updates back from those at any given point in time. So for example, you can publish these plans out, you can update these plans or receive updates back in from the updates that people do into OnePlan. And the key there is that's what shows up in the plan here in OnePlan and rolls up into this particular portfolio. So once again, not to belabor the point, we have connectors with a variety of different tools that we can go through and do that with. Now, ultimately, the team member we talked about, if the work that they're being assigned is spread across all these different tools, wouldn't it be nice for them to go in and say, you know, I'm on this project for the web plan and I've got tasks that I can update right here in one place. Or I'm on this Azure DevOps plan and I've got backlog items and tasks that I could possibly update right here from a singular place without having to go to all these different places to do it. You know, same thing holds true, for example, if I was on a write project and I have tasks, for example, I can go into here and do anything I like in here. I can update percent completes. I can put in comments and notes around those. I can build my own to-do lists. I can build activities subordinate to those things for myself if I have different things I need to accomplish in order to accomplish this task that's been assigned to me. I can do all those types of things right here within OnePlan. So once again, one place to go to do all that. And the same holds true if you're doing timesheets, et cetera, around this. Okay. On the AI side of things, you know, there's some pretty cool things that we can do with, you know, in creation of projects and creation of project plans and schedules, et cetera. Let me go, for example, into this portfolio. And if I want to, I could go into a particular portfolio, for example, and into a particular program. And let me go and say, oh, let me say I want to create a new project. And I can actually use the AI just by typing in a description that I can actually have it create a project for me. So for example, I could go in and say, help me build a project for a new smart home automation system that will be state-of-the-art compared to others currently on the market and at a price point that will be competitive. And it will create that plan for me. Given the time that we have right now, I think what I'll do is I think I'll jump to a set of slides that basically will have some of those recorded, because we do have just some examples. For example, you could use it, Sophia, to provide a list of viable OKRs for the enterprise PMO. You could have it analyze the strategic plan and see where the risks and opportunities are within that plan. You could basically have it select projects like we did. We did something similar, did based on criteria and did something within budgets and within a time horizon. The work management side, creating and detailing a new project. This is one where I thought I'd kind of play this one just because it kind of illustrates the point I was just getting to, where you can actually put in just a narrative description of what you want to do. It will actually create the plan and bring up the details page so that you can put the details around it. It will actually fill in the details in the different fields based upon the narrative that you gave it. And you can optimize that or modify that as you go, but it gets you started without having a blank canvas. And then you can go in and then have it create a work plan using AI. So even if you don't have a work plan, you can have Sophia generate the work plan, and then you can apply it, map it to your resources within your resource pool, and boom, you have a project plan that you can now modify and refine instead of starting from a blank canvas. So once again, creating a project with the assistance of AI becomes simpler and more streamlined of a process. We can actually have it identify potential risks. For example, you could actually go into this project and say, you know, what are potential risks for this particular project? So once again, this is a smart home automation system that I was going to use the example of. I can go and I see there's an empty risk register. In this particular case, I say, what are the risks? And it's basically outlining the risks that and mitigation strategies that we might want to deploy here. So pretty cool that once again, you know, at a very minimum, we're not starting from ground zero at all these different things that we're trying to accomplish. Resource capacity planning, you know, to basically have it provide you a sample resource plan by hours per month. Basically saying, here's the plan, here's the timeline, here's the type of project it is, Now it's going to tell me by resource plan by month. And by the way, in our latest release, this actually will be generated in a table format that you can leverage and apply. But it's smart enough to know that I need a business analyst on the front end, I need QA on the back end, etc. And it gives me a resource plan without me starting from scratch in the roles that I'll need. It'll even let me know on the overall resource capacity plan where I'm short and what resources I might need to hire or contract if I want to complete all this. Analyzing financial data. It can compare maybe your budget versus your forecast and your actuals and give you some insights around that. And even communication, write a project summary for your, an email to your manager. It'll allow you to take the details that are in your project plan and basically will create it for you in email format and summarize the data that you need to communicate regarding the overall status of this particular project and where things are at. So once again, the possibilities are endless. We just wanted to whet your appetite a little bit today. So in summary, there's different work methodologies and proliferations of tools that breed silos and inefficiencies in organizations today. Strategic alignment has become increasingly important in many of these organizations. And the increased complexity and fast pace of change requires that we enhance our methods and approaches to doing these things. And with large transformation efforts and other large programs, we need to get better at effective cross-functional enterprise-wide orchestration and have the tools to do so. And AI has many applications in portfolio management that can greatly augment our human efforts. And hopefully we showed you some examples of that today. Now, OnePlan provides a solution that does all this: top-down portfolio management, bottom-up execution, and connecting to other tools to harness this all together into a common hub. And you can use AI and Sophia across all of these things. So we do this as our focus area. Project and portfolio management is not a sideline for us in work management. We live and breathe this stuff, and we're recognized by the analysts, and we're recognized by Microsoft for consistent leadership in this area, and we continue to innovate. Now you can try OnePlan out. So if you want to do the full strategic alignment and all the things that we talked about, I would recommend you try the strategic portfolio management trial. The adaptive one, we could do that one as well, which has a few things not in it, like the enterprise architecture, et cetera. But the idea there is that we'll give you complimentary assistance on the trials that you want, but feel free to go to oneplan.ai/solutions or get it from Microsoft App Source. So try us out with a trial. We're happy to do a roadmap workshop with you at no charge to understand what it would take to get you from where you're at into a solution like this, or even do a more detailed demonstration for you if you need. Just reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai. We'd love to engage with you. So with that, we're at the top of the hour, and I'd just like to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to spend with us and learn a little bit more about OnePlan, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.